So I am talking about online. Like Dr. Brown said, these are not specific to any particular course. So what I will talk to you about is online in general. How many of you have had an online course already? Okay. So I may be preaching to the choir as well. You may already know this stuff. If you don't, then hopefully I'm telling you something that you can use in the future. One of the things that I noticed when I started teaching online, and I was thrown into online as an instructor. So it was, hey, here's 4 brand new to you classes, and you're going to teach all of them online, and you're going to do that next month. And I thought, oh my God, I'd barely been in D2L. So I know what it's like to be thrown in and you're trying to figure your way around this D2L thing, and it's brand new, or if it's not brand new, it's a new course for you. And one of the things that I learned very quickly was online is not out of sight, out of mind. That may be what it ends up being, but that's not what it should be. And I've had students sitting in my office at the end of the semester saying, it was easy to remember to go to Dr. Brown's class or Dr. Foster's class because I had to be there, but with your class, I kind of forgot about it. With online, you do have to remember that you have the class. If that means setting a reminder in your phone to check, to log into D2L and check whether you have assignments or discussion boards, that's one of the suggestions that I've gotten from students. In fact, I poll my students every semester and say, what are your tips for success in online? Share with your classmates, because we may have people who are veterans of online instruction, and we have students who are brand new to online, who have never taken an online class before. That's one of the things they say. The students who have had online classes before, set a reminder in your phone. That smartphones can be wonderful things. Some faculty don't, they cringe if they see your phone out. But you can use that phone for good, and that's one of the things that you can use it for, is set a reminder every day, get in those online classes. In my classes in particular, and I think most of the faculty in our department, we expect you to be in the discussion boards. If you think you can wait till the end of the week, whatever the end of the week is, and do one post, or do your post and then say, I agree, or I like that post, I like what you said, and think you're done, you're probably not going to do very well in discussions. If faculty are just counting responses, that may be acceptable, but for me, that's not engagement in the class, and it wouldn't be sufficient if you were sitting in an in-person class, and you probably wouldn't even say, raise your hand to go, oh yeah, I agree, but people don't think anything about doing that in the online courses. That's not a response. That's, you could give a thumbs up sitting in class for that. So put time into the discussions. That's how you're going to put a lot of your learning and engagement together, is in those discussion boards. That takes the place of a class discussion. The way I teach my in-person classes, there's a lot of discussion, and I do my online classes the same way. I think Dr. Brown has a lot of active engagement. You can't just sit back and hide in the back of a room. The same way with online, because I know how many times you've been in the discussion boards, and I know what your posts are because I can go back and read them. I may not remember exactly what you said in class, but in online, there's a record of everything you say. So I can go back and look at that. But being engaged in the discussion, and this comes from students too, it's amazing how much you can learn from your classmates if you will get in there and read what your classmates have posted, engage in the discussion. I'll be in there doing the discussion boards with you, and I like to be challenged. That's one thing I would tell you, and again, I'm speaking specifically for me, but in general, challenge things. You can do that in a positive way. Well, you said this, but I'm not sure I agree with this because here's a source that says something else. When you bring in other readings other than your text or whatever you were assigned, it may be a video. If you bring in other references, that's great, because those are ways that you're engaged in the course. And with online, if you think that it's an independent study that you can complete in a weekend, you may be able to do a class that way, but I would argue that's probably not a very good class for you, because I don't know how much you're going to learn if you just flew through some tests in a Saturday and Sunday and you were done. I hope I'm not insulting anybody in the room by saying that. But when I first started teaching online and students would go, oh my gosh, this class takes so much time. Well, yes, it does. Online does take time. It's a little easier in some ways to go sit in class where you know you have, okay, watching the time, I've got 55 minutes today, and I've got 55 minutes on Wednesday, and I've got 55 minutes on Friday. And I'm out of class. And it doesn't mean that you stop doing things. You do all the things that Dr. Brown talked about outside of class. Same thing with online. When you're in the course, that's being in class. And I think sometimes students assume that online is independent study. You can do it whenever you want to. And if that means you're doing everything on Sunday night, that's probably not going to work. And I would tell you, in my classes in particular, that's not going to work. At least not for long. Other tips for success in online, and again, this is coming from students, and I get it's amazing how consistent their comments are every semester. It's like, have y'all been talking to each other? Because these come up repeatedly. In addition to the using your phone for good, know what's expected of you. Print out that schedule, print out the syllabus, print out whatever it is you get from the instructor that tells you what you need to be doing, because if in online it's out of sight, out of mind, you're going to forget that you have something due. So print out the schedule, make sure that you're following along with it, and treat this like you would any other class. It's not something you do on a weekend. You don't just open up your schedule and go, oh yeah, I got to turn that in by 11 o'clock tonight, and whoo, here it is 10:30. I guess I better get going. Online classes are going to be time consuming, so be prepared for that. Trying to think what else, the biggies. There's some individual things that come up. For those of you that get into one of the allied health programs where you're on clinicals, you're going to be in your clinical site possibly all day long. That's a little different than when you're used to going to class and you've got a break in between. You may have lunch. If you're at a clinical site, you're there at the time they tell you need to be there. But that doesn't mean you're done if you're still taking online classes. You may have to go home and be online at night. You may have to get up early in the morning and be online. And one of the things the students have cautioned about is make sure you're not assuming that you can use time in the clinic to be on the computer. You probably can't. So if you think you're going to, I can just do that on my lunch break, sometimes you're blocked out of logging into the D2L site from clinical site. So that may seem like a silly thing, but as you're planning your time, you need to plan time away from your other responsibilities to get into the D2L site. I don't want you sitting in any of their classes, logging into your online classes, trying to do work for online while you're in another class. It's a separate class. So plan your time that way. Speaking of planning your time, that is another thing that students have said usually trips them up with online. They don't plan the extra time that it takes to read the discussions. I'm used to typing. If I were standing up here, I could probably type this way better than I'm speaking. For the last 6 years, I've done nothing but teach online. I don't talk to people, I type to people. So as you're typing, it's one thing to talk in class, and what you say, you can stop and go, wait a minute, let me rephrase that. That didn't come out right. But in online, as you're typing, you do have the opportunity to edit. Use that opportunity so that whatever you're typing in your discussions makes sense. You don't have to post your stream of conscious thought. If I go back and listen to this, I'm going to be going, I need to edit that a lot, because that's not what I would be. I might have typed all that out and then I would have gone back and copied and pasted and edited. And you can do that in online, which is great. And take that opportunity to do that, because you're spell check and do all those things you would do if you were typing a paper. You can spell check in the discussion boards. A lot of students don't realize that. But you can spell check. I would highly recommend that you do that. It makes things a whole lot easier to read when we're trying to figure out what you're saying. Another thing with the online courses, particularly in the allied health area, the core courses in allied health that you're going to be taking, you will be in class with students from other disciplines. And it is wonderful to learn what other students experience, what they're doing. Treat these classes the same way you would sitting in here in person. If this were a class, before class, we'd probably all go, okay, so what'd y'all do this weekend? you can do that in online, develop relationships with your online classmates, talk to each other, whether that's sending emails or if somebody says something and you want to follow up on it, shoot them an email or ask them something on an open discussion board so you can get to know each other. Sometimes that's what the students have said is the neatest thing about online is they're able to connect with people they might not have connected with in class, because if you two are sitting next to each other, you may be the only people you have a conversation with. There's an empty seat there. There's nobody to talk to. But in online, you can actually talk to everybody in the class, and I think that's one of the coolest things. Everybody has a voice, so use it and take advantage of that. I was actually hoping there would be more questions than me talking, so I'm going to sit down now, and I will be more than happy to field questions about online, because I think I can probably do a better job answering what questions you have than just telling you stuff that you may go, I already know this. So I will turn it over to Dr. Eagle at this point.